Hello there, how you doing? You're welcome to the channel. So, when I was planning this video, my whole mindset was I'll come here, talk about how the team should set up or how I think the team should set up going into next season. But went into my X feed, I'm sure like most of you, and saw two news items relating to transfer of players that I'll have to talk about. And now, first off, of course, we've got to talk about, you know, um, Lesley Ugochukwu. Lesley Ugochukwu, apparently, he will be heading to Burnley. Chelsea are in talks with Burnley. That was a David Ornstein bomber, so should and could be heading out to Burnley. Now, how do I feel about this? For me, I get why he has to leave because he's not going to get game time. I get that 100%. Seeing that you have Esugo just signed, so it's a new signing. He's going to play. Caicedo has been immense so far, so of course he will play. Enzo is one of the untouchables under Maresca, so he will play. Andre Santos, a promising player, so he's going to play as well. But Lesley Ugochukwu is a special player. He is special. His height, the way he carries himself, the way he's able to pass from the ball. I think he's someone that should be seen within Chelsea's ecosystem. Because next year Real Madrid could always come in for Enzo Fernandez, and he's one person that I had a feeling like, yeah, for sure. He could have done something, but I get why he's got to leave. I get why he's got to go. So fair plays. Chelsea getting some outgoings done, and that's what Fabrizio Romano has has been saying. Xavi Simons. The sign of Xavi Simons is sort of predicated on outgoings. Outgoings must be done. So talk of Nkunku going could be an option for Inter Milan. Talks of now that Ugochukwu having to leave, talks of Tyreek George that I talked about in yesterday's video, leaving as well. So you need to have outgoings. But for me, Lesley Ugochukwu is someone I felt could have been in the team that Chelsea could have done with. But he's leaving. Fair play. Hope he gets game time there and crushes his career at Burnley and have a fantastic time there. Now we go on to the next one that I had to talk about. And this guy was meant to be the sort of coach whisperer on the pitch, but for some reason, it hasn't turned out that way. So Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall was meant to be that guy that Enzo Maresca demanded for that would explain Enzo Maresca's tactics on the pitch in the way the players could understand or whatever. But ironically and funny enough, he didn't even get to play that much. So Everton have put the bid down, for the permanent transfer of Dewsbury-Hall. So let's see, maybe, who knows, that could be in and around 20, 35, maybe even 40 million pounds. So that's it. That's a good move for Chelsea, getting him off the books, and a good move for the player. I think getting to Everton, the club where he would play. So I'm guessing maybe he gets to. It will be interesting to see how he plays with Ndaye, because I think Ndaye is a very good player, and they both should be playing in similar areas. If I'm completely honest, though I feel Ndaye is a better player than Dewsbury-Hall, but maybe that's just because he didn't get the required game time at Chelsea. So fair play to him. He goes on to Everton. That's one more name off the Chelsea squad list and one more wage of the Chelsea wage bill. So overall, good business. He's gone. Lesley Ugochukwu could be going as well. And then that would then mean you have more space. Maybe Xavi Simons could come in, and just maybe that would mean Tyreek George doesn't have to get sold. But let's see how it shakes down. Let me know your opinions on this sort of reported moves for these players. Let me know what you think. Now, the main thing I wanted to talk about today was how Chelsea will set up going into the 2 preseason games and then maybe going into the season itself. So first off, I think the goalkeeping area, we have no choice at this moment. It has to be Robert Sanchez. So full support for him, but he hasn't been that great. Now, I was watching the stream because I watch the videos and channels of other sort of content creators, and someone was saying that Donnarumma is not a good goalkeeper for Chelsea. I see the point he's making. But it's a shame that a goalkeeper like Donnarumma would not be a good goalkeeper for Chelsea. I get Enzo Maresca wants to play out from the back, but when you even look at Robert Sanchez, is he that good? Apart from when it comes to hitting the ball long, If he's hitting the ball long, Sanchez is pretty good with that. But when it comes to passing out from the back, he is pretty sloppy and shaky. So, and then you look at Donnarumma, overall, he's a better goalkeeper. When you talk about doing what a goalkeeper job is meant to be, which is 1v1, claiming crosses, saving shots from outside. So he would have been a very good choice, but playing out from the back, it's indeed a challenge for him. And maybe Enzo Maresca would prefer a goalkeeper that can actually play the short pass out from the back as opposed to laying the ball off to a centre back like PSG did with Donnarumma, where he would lay the ball off to Marquinhos, and then Marquinhos would then have to play that ball forward. So overall, Donnarumma, Chelsea left with Robert Sanchez. That's what we've got to sort of cope with going into next season, except some huge shock will happen. So fair play to Robert Sanchez. So he's the one that's going to come in there. Let me know your personal opinions on Robert Sanchez being Chelsea's outright number one right now. Let's not even talk about Philip Jorgensen because he is not proving himself that he can do anything. First off, he's small for a goalkeeper. I think he's 6'3". He's small. So, and then when it comes to actually doing goalkeeper stuff, saving shots and stuff, I think Robert Sanchez is better than him, which is odd to say. And then when it comes to, but playing that from the back with the ball at his feet. So I was thinking maybe you have the biggest conversion that world football has ever seen, where you turn a goalkeeper into a midfielder. Maybe bearing that, there's no way I see him competing for a starting spot in that team. So Robert Sanchez will start. And then at left back, fair play, Gerald Hatto has been announced officially as an official Chelsea player. I think it's on Chelsea Officials X and as well on platforms like TikTok, and should be on the website as well. So good that he's in the building. But for me, the number one starter at left back is Cucurella. The number one starter for me is Cucurella. Can you remember a couple of years ago, Chelsea fans wanted Cucurella gone. A lot of Chelsea fans wanted him. So can you see what less than 2 years, has turned him into an absolute monster of a player? So for me, he starts at that left back role. But the good thing with having Gerald Hatto in the building is that you've got someone that can, support him. That's for one, be a backup, and can also start in his stead. One thing that Gerald Hatto has over Cucurella is he has a bit more pace than Cucurella, so that's fair play. So good to have those two players in the building. So Cucurella for me is the out and out starter. And then when you move to, I'll go to right back. Right back, I think Reece James is overall a better player than Gusto. Except Maresca would want to talk Reece James into a midfield and then just say, Gusto, I want you overlapping, just bumping on forward. You just keep bumping forward like against PSG. But the thing with that in the Premier League is that will work with only a few teams. And I'm all for that when you're playing those big games. When you play against your Manchester Cities, you're playing against your Arsenals, playing against your Liverpools. Especially with the crazy way Liverpool want to play right now. Because if you're going to go with Ekitike, a lot of Liverpool fans are saying, you get Ekitike, you're going to start from the bench. No, you don't spend 95 million, whether naira, pounds, euros, whatever, on the player and keep him on the bench. So after spending 95 million euros on Hugo Ekitike, he's not going to be a bench player. He's not going to be a developmental player. He's not going to be stuck somewhere playing with the reserve at Anfield. He will be a starter. So that means Arne Slot is focusing mainly, hugely on attack. So you come up against a team like Liverpool, then you could say, okay, we're going to play that way. We're going to attack one flank. We would have Palmer being an inverted 10, starting out as a winger, but actually being a 10 and moving towards, giving room for Gusto to overlap. And then you have Reece James in the midfield, maybe. But other than that, normally Reece James should be the starting right back for me. Then when you shift into central defense, for me, that's where you have the issues right now. Because who is the guy? Cole Will, yes, he's improving. He's beginning to make that place his own. But outside of that, who else? Who is the guy? Who are you pointing at to say, yeah, this one? Anselmino, that I had a feeling that Anselmino should be, the next one up. But it's like he's not even going to get a look in. He's probably going to head out on loan somewhere, which is just sad for me because I feel he's one of the promising young defender and could do with playing in this young team. But he's gone, so he probably will be gone soon. So fair enough. And then Tosin, for whatever reason, doesn't get to play. For me, I think the best centre-back pairing for Chelsea at this minute is Tosin Colwill. For me, that's the best centre-back pairing. Tosin and Colwill, that works for me. Until a better sort of centre-back is signed. There was a talk of signing Thomas from Benfica, but he's going to be very expensive. I think he signed a new deal. So I don't know how Chelsea would get him out of there, given that certain wage structure and all that stuff. And are you willing to pay like not of 70 million, 80 million for a centre back? I think Chelsea missed out on the chance of signing some Araujo from Benfica. They missed out on the opportunity, to sign him because I think it was a lot cheaper last summer. So that's it. So for me, Tosin Cole will start in that central defense pairing. And then you talk about the midfield area. So the midfield area, we already talked about Lesley Ugochukwu. He's off. Discussions with Burnley. Hopefully Chelsea get a fair chunk for him. He's one player that I felt like had a uniqueness about him, where you have the pure aggression and tackling of your Caicedo. Similarly with Esugo, I think Esugo is a bit more aggressive than Caicedo, but I think Caicedo's game is far more refined than Esugo's game. And then you have Enzo Fernandez, who should have been for me a deep line playmaker, but he's being used slightly differently. Andre Santos, I think he has qualities that Caicedo has, in that he's not afraid of the tackle, and he also has some elements of Enzo Fernandez because he can really make that ball move. He can ping those passes about. So, but Lesley Ugochukwu, I had the feeling that the way he plays, he can sit back. He can be one of those people where when the team is attacking and pushing and pushing the envelope, forcing the issue on your position, he can be one of those players that can drop deep, still being in central midfield, but can drop to take up a spot of a centre back, especially when you spread the centre backs wide, like I could see, because if you're inverting fullbacks, centre backs will have to drift out wide. So, but he's leaving, so that's what we're stuck with. So for starting central midfielders, we'll have to go with the tried and trusted Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo and Moises Caicedo. Although for me, Enzo Fernandez, I think I would have preferred him used slightly differently, more like a Fabregas with more legs. Sit back, ping the passes about, control the play, dictate the play. But Enzo Maresca sees him differently. He's the head coach. What can we say? So he'll he'll be that guy that's sort of like an 8 or thereabouts. So fair plays with that. So he and Caicedo get to start. And then when you look at the left wing, so many questions to answer at the left wing, because you've got Parry Judd, possibly could be leaving, club still interested in Garnacho, and of course Gittins is already there. And I see Nicholas Jackson as an option for that left wing. I really do. I know some people would say he doesn't fit there. When I ask, what do you expect from your winger? What is that one thing that when you look at your winger, you say, yeah, this is what I expect. You expect pace, he's got it. You expect skill, ability to get past the man, he's got it. So I keep asking people, can you imagine what life would be like for as a fullback if you see Nicholas Jackson running at you full tilt, full pace, 1v1 from start of the game till the end? I see that would be terrifying for any fullback. And he can be a unique winger because wingers are not usually 6 foot and he's 6 foot. So I think if you play Nicholas Jackson there, take away the burden of being the main guy that gets the goals, he can absolutely, as the kids would say, cook playing, at left wing. So he's an option, but the way I say this is he probably would start as Gittins will be the starting left winger. Maybe it ends up being Gittins and what's his face battling for that spot, Gittins and Garnacho, which is something strange to me. I'll continue to say this. It doesn't make sense to me because for each signing, that Chelsea makes, sometimes I fight it in my head. I think about it, okay, and then I come to a point where I say, yeah, this signing makes sense. But for me, Garnacho's signing doesn't still make sense to me. Maybe, maybe at some point it would, but for now, it doesn't quite make sense to me. And then we go to the central attack, to the striking position, center forward. We've got the center forwards of different profiles. So Lesley Ugochukwu, you've got João Pedro, and you've got Liam Delap as well. So strikers of different profiles. Liam Delap is more of a traditional orthodox number 9, run all day, batter you. It makes life difficult for people and can be very useful on the counter attack. But I think João Pedro is the more refined of the two strikers. And I would say he would be the starter. I don't know what you think. Let me know in the chat what your opinions are. But I think he will be the starter. João Pedro will be the starting number 9. And then Liam Delap can come off the bench. Hopefully this season, Enzo Maresca uses his squad a lot better. And he doesn't have any choice. Maresca has no choice because the Champions League is not a throwaway tournament like the Conference League. Of course, very happy to have won it. And I was not like one of those people who threw their noses up at the Conference League. But you have to accept it. The pressure to win the Conference League is not as much as the pressure to win the Champions League. And I think if maybe Enzo Maresca and Chelsea had, gone out early in the Conference League, maybe it wouldn't have been a disaster. But the Champions League, you must, I'm not saying win it, but you must do well in it, and you must show to be doing well in it and taking it seriously. And how does the coach show that he's taking the competition seriously is how he goes about his selection. So that therefore means that the likes of João Pedro wouldn't be playing 90 minutes of every Premier League game. That would mean 65 minutes he could be off and a Delap would come on. And again, for me, I say to defenders, I say to Chelsea fans, can you imagine how life would feel like for defenders, for centre-backs playing against Chelsea, where you've had João Pedro move you about with his movement, his link-up play with Cole Palmer, and then with 25 minutes left to go, 20 minutes left to go, you have to cope with Liam Delap running at you, battering you. From a Chelsea point of view, that's going to be lovely to watch. But for opponents, it's not going to be that lovely to watch, in my opinion. So I think Enzo Maresca had no choice but to use his squad better this season. He has to use his squad better. And I think that moves me to the next area, which is the central attacking midfield, or the number 10. Cole Palmer is the number 1 guy. Now, each time I talk about Cole Palmer, people want to say, oh, what do you mean? Cole Palmer is Chelsea's number 1. He is the number 1 guy. So he will start as the number 1, number 10, if you get what I mean, behind the striker. Now, if you're going to sign Xavi Simons, for me, you're not signing Xavi Simons to be a left winger or to be a right winger. A lot of times people point to his pace and say, he's pacey. Of course, he's pacey. He's got pace. Good. But that pace is what makes him special in that 10 role. So for me, either you play them together, that's not strange, or he becomes someone that readily comes off the bench for Cole Palmer. And when in games that Cole Palmer needs to rest, Xavi Simons becomes the guy to play that 10. Because what you want to have in your squad is you don't want to have that drop-off, that huge drop-off in quality when you're making substitutions. So for me, like last season, I thought we saw Nkunku, we saw João Felix. They should have been options for Maresca in that 10 role to rest Palmer when he's injured or out suspended. But we didn't see that happen. Even when Cole Palmer was struggling, we didn't quite see that happen. And maybe at that point in the season, Enzo Maresca just didn't trust João Felix enough, just didn't trust Christopher Nkunku enough. So I'm hoping that in these negotiations for Xavi Simons and in the decision to indeed get Xavi Simons, Enzo Maresca was involved. Enzo Maresca at least gave his okay to say, yeah, I see this player fitting in my team. I trust this player. I've watched him. I've made detailed notes about him, and I trust this player. When I say that so that when you have games where probably you're smashing teams, 4-0, 20 minutes to go, 15 minutes to go, you should have a Xavi Simons come on. Probably, you've played a Champions League game, and then you're going into a game, let's say, against Burnley in the Premier League. That should be a game where Xavi Simons can start and Cole Palmer can come off the bench. And shouldn't give any Chelsea fan cause for concern, because you want to preserve the player. You want your player to be available to play in the key games. And when you give them enough time to rest, when you have quality coming off the bench, that's the way you preserve them. But you let them play game in, game out, game in, game out, no resting, no substitution whatsoever. Even the likes of Messi and Ronaldo that played a lot of games when they were younger, they still got subbed to let them rest and get refreshed. Eden Hazard, the same thing. So for me, the way the formation goes 4-2-3-1 this minute, or 4-3-3, I'll have Cole Palmer at the starting 10, obviously. And then you go to the right wing. Now, right wing right now is Estavayo Willian, who is supposedly going to be joining the team today in first team training. So Estavayo Willian and Pedro Neto. Those are the options for right wing. Noni Madueke since gone to join Arsenal, although for me it was a move I didn't want to happen, because I think he contributed a lot to the production. He was on the same level with Pedro Neto, but he's gone. I'm not talking about Arsenal players on here. So Pedro Neto and Estavayo Willian. And how I see it is Pedro Neto will be the starting right winger. He will start the season at right wing. And then as the season continues to progress, then you would have Estavayo Willian grow into that role. That's where I see it. And don't be surprised if by the summer of 2026, 2027, if Pedro Neto gets sold. Don't be surprised. He could get sold for 60 or even 70 odd million, depending on what Chelsea win the season. So Estavayo Willian, I think, come the end of the season, would finish the season as a starting, right winger, but Pedro Neto would start the season as the starting right winger. So fair play on that one. Let me know what you think about what I'm saying. Do you think I'm saying nonsense? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Or who do you think would start in these various positions? And of course, the striking position for me is João Pedro. João Pedro will start in that role. He will be the starting number 9. And Liam Delap can come off the bench, and then Nicholas Jackson. That's why it continues to feel to me like Nicholas Jackson would have to leave. I feel about it. I just feel like he would have to leave if he's bent on playing in that as a striker, and indeed if Garnacho signs. Because the way I look at it is, people might say Garnacho signing doesn't tie so much into Nicholas Jackson, but this is how I feel it ties into it. Because one thing with Enzo Maresca is whether you agree with him or disagree with him, because I disagree with Enzo Maresca on some tactical things like having fullbacks fully resident in midfield. I've had that sort of disagreement with him, obviously not discussed with him personally, but I've had that difference of opinion. So whether you agree with his tactical switches of players and all that, that's something he's always thinking about. It's something he's always doing. So I'm thinking at this moment, when he sees Gittins as the first choice left winger, and then with Tyreek George as one there, he could also be looking at Nicholas Jackson as the other one, as someone that can play in that right wing. On that left wing. He could be looking at and saying, yeah, Nico has the ability to play there, so he could be the one to play there. That's how you could be looking at it. To say, yeah, Nico Jackson could be the one to play at that right wing, left wing. But now, if you then go on to sign a Garnacho, that will now be, he is now the left winger. Then the question now comes in, would Nico Jackson be happy being third choice striker? And also, if you're projecting into next season, that's into the upper season, Emmanuel Omega is coming, because they're owned by sister clubs. That Strasbourg right now, sister club to Chelsea, with clearly a Bluco connection, wanting to get a pre-agreement with the player. So you look at it as a Nico Jackson. Do I really want to stay at this club and be fourth choice next season and third choice this season? You'll probably be thinking, at best move on, especially if Garnacho comes in. Now, I want to know your opinions about Garnacho. I've had my opinions about him. I want to know what you think about Alejandro Garnacho as a Chelsea player, because right now it feels like people like me who are not really fans of that move would have to get used to it. We'll have to find a way to embrace it, because right now it feels like the club are bent on getting him in. Now, the question everyone wants to ask, rather than signing Garnacho, there's a player Chelsea had signed once, as the Pereira is at Strasbourg. How about that player? But that's a different discussion for another day. I would, if I was to choose my starting, the right winger, left wingers to start the league with, it would be Gittins, first choice. Second choice would be Tyreek George, and then Nicolas Jackson could then be another option there, in that position. But I wouldn't be taking Garnacho. But Garnacho comes in, what can we do? But support him. And then the midfield, like I said, my starting options: Caicedo, Moses Caicedo, and of course, I would have Enzo Fernandez beside him. Now, if you're just joining the stream, please subscribe to the channel if you're new. Share this video to people if you love content like this. But what I've been talking about is, first of all, I talked about Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, an offer coming for him from Everton to Chelsea. What do you make of that? What do you make of his time at Chelsea? For me, at least, he can say, I came to Chelsea without an European trophy. I came to Chelsea without being a Club World Cup champion. Now I'm a Club World Cup champion. Now I have an European trophy to my name. So his time at Chelsea, he can say, is some sort of success. So, and then overall, what do you think about him staying or leaving? For me, I'm okay. I'm pretty fine with him leaving the club, because I think his time at Chelsea hasn't really been that great. He's coming and been a big part player and was very good. I would say not very good. He was okay, above okay in the Conference League. So he did his bit. And then I think now it's fair for him to leave. And he was someone that Chelsea sort of stole from Brighton. Brighton wanted to sign him, and then Chelsea, out of the blues, ironically, snagged him up. So right now it looks like he's heading to Everton. Fair play. I think that would be a good fit for him alongside Ndaye. And then, of course, Lesley Ugochukwu, head Burnley, are looking to put in a bid for him, discussing currently with Chelsea. That's a player I would have loved to stay, but the midfield right now is so crowded. It's so crowded. Esugo is in there. Caicedo is in there. Enzo Maresca is in there. Enzo Fernandez is in there. Of course, you've got Caicedo. Of course, you've got Esugo. So that midfield is crowded. You can't have 5-6 players, fighting for 2 spots. Let's face it. You got Andre Santos as well. There's 2 spots. So either you're having a Caicedo, there's 2 spots behind Palmer. So it's Caicedo, Enzo starting, and then you have 2 more spots behind them. So having 5 or 6 people gone in for that 1 spot, I just think that's a bit of overkill for me, in my opinion. So, the fair play, he goes, and I hope he thrives there. And I just hope there's a buyback option, or at least a sell-on clause there, because he's going to definitely, after this first season, or at least a couple of seasons, he'll probably be worth 40 to 50 million. That's the way I'm looking at it. So, fair play, wish him all the best. But obviously, except when Burnley, play against Chelsea. So, tactically, what do you think about Chelsea overall? And Robert Sanchez, are you confident going into the season with Sanchez as Chelsea's number 1? Are you confident with that? For me, not too confident, and that's one of the reasons I say Chelsea can really challenge for the title. I would love to say, as a Chelsea fan, yeah, we're going to challenge for this title. Yes, we could compete with Liverpool, but goalkeeping area, poor. Or I'll just say average, a bit less than average for me. It says he's a good shot stopper. Yes, he can be a good shot stopper in sports. That is the problem with Robert Sanchez. In sports, he can be a good shot stopper, but consistently doing it, fully focused, fully concentrated, that's where the issue is with Robert Sanchez. So in one game, he can look like he's Van der Sar and Peter Cech combined. And in other games, and in most games, not even in other games, not a 50-50 split. In most games, he looks like he's not meant to be there. So for me, that's a bit of a conundrum there. And then Philip Jorgensen, it's not even a back. It's not even a backup. It's just a body. It's just a body If Robert Sanchez is injured for any reason, then you just push in what's his face in there. You push in Philip Jorgensen there. I don't see him as a competition for Robert Sanchez. So Jorah Hato announced, so he's already in the squad. So what do you make of the squad list I put out there? This is what I want to say. And then tactically, we've talked about the squad. Let's talk about tactics now. So for me, I like what I saw against PSG. I like what Enzo Maresca did, against PSG. It showed he could tweak things around a bit. And I know some people are beginning to look at Palmer and say, oh, he can play out wide. Not really. Not really. He's never going to play out wide and hold width for you. No, it's kind of like a 10 masquerading as a winger. A 10 that you kind of look at, oh, but he starts as a winger. No, that's where he stands. But when the game actually starts, he ends up in the middle. So Enzo Maresca showed that tactical flexibility, having Gusto overlap and being a threat to Nuno Mendes and causing a lot of the goals. So most of the goals came down from Chelsea's right. So I'd like to see those tactical switches because last season we saw Enzo Maresca being overly stubborn, where fullbacks must invert no matter what. Fullbacks must invert. And one way opposition teams and opponents were cutting Chelsea out was simple. You have your fullback tucked into midfield. That's fine. We're going to just have 2 touches at the back, and we'll have the ball smash into that space where Gusto has left vacant or where Reece James has left vacant. So I want to see some tactical flexibility this season, and I want to see, even more importantly, players play in their favored position. For me, I don't care who the coach is. This is something I've always said. Players should play in their favored position, and then that's how you can actually judge them. When you have players in their favored position, then you can judge them to say, yeah, he's a good right back, or he's not a good right back. He's a good left back, or he's not a good left back. But when you have a fullback in midfield, you can't really judge him because you're playing him out of position, and it's clear. Same thing. And then sometimes inverting fullbacks takes away something, because each time you invert Cucurella, he's the one that has mastered that position, that inverted fullback role. He has mastered it to a T. But each time you play Cucurella as an inverted fullback, what you do is you rob the team. You rob the team, of what's it called? You rob the team of the attacking threat of the fullback overlapping. So, and then I want to ask, what do you make of this statement that has been attributed to Enzo Maresca, saying last season he said you're not going for the title, to take pressure off the players, but now this season he says we go for everything. What do you make of it? For me, this is how I look at it. Now, firstly, I really don't care what the manager says in press conference about title runs. I don't care about it really, because people say it nonetheless. As a managers will always say, oh, we're not in the title race, we're not the favorites. Like you remember the little horse thing that Jose Mourinho said, oh, we're a little horse that need nourishment, that need milk. He said that. But for me, what's more important is what the coach says to the players in the dressing room. For me, that is what's more crucial, what's more important. So you can come on and say anything to the media, get them to speculate, get them to write whatever articles they want to write. But what you tell the team in the dressing room, that's what's more important. And I think Enzo Maresca told the team something different in the dressing room, and that's why they were saying all they were saying. Even Madueke, all of them were saying, oh, we don't know what the title race is and all that. But it's fair play to see him, seeming tough and all action in the interview saying, we're going all out for everything. So that means every game is important. And that also means the squad and the team must have depth. And as a head coach, you must use the squad. So the team right now has depth in certain areas, whilst I think there's one area or rather 2 areas right now that really needs attention. The centre-back area is one place where I still have my doubts. Colwill has improved last season and shown leadership. He still has a bit of Too much aggression for me, in my opinion, because you could get sent off for decent. Yellow card, and you're off. So all your good work is done. So Cole has improved. So saying that, that means he should be starting for Chelsea. But then who pairs with him? For me, I think Tosin is the best person to pair with him. And because when you look at Chalobah, I keep saying this, I like Chalobah. I watch Chalobah in those FA Cup youth games. I saw him progress, grow through the ranks, but like I keep saying, he can give us moments where you're like, wow, wonderful defender, but can he be super consistent, in that two-man pairing? So for me, I think Chelsea still needs a centre-back, given that the Mamadou Sarr that came in, that we're all thinking, yeah, he will be the next one. He will be Cole's partner because he can play from the back. He has physicality, aggression, and all that. It turned out that he's back on loan to Strasbourg, which is just odd to me. He's back on loan to Strasbourg, so that's what we see. And then again, I'll say something about Strasbourg after I make this point. So Mamadou Sarr off to Strasbourg and Firmino possibly leaving as well on loan. So Chelsea just need maybe a centre-back shot as well, maybe centre-back shot. Just maybe centre-back shot. And now this is what I want to make, this point I want to make about Strasbourg. There is a player that's currently in negotiations, at least according to reports, to move from Southampton to Strasbourg. And that's Samuel Edozie. And for me, when I think about Samuel Edozie, I'm like, Chelsea, maybe you slow your roll on signing Garnacho. Maybe you slow your roll on signing Garnacho. Let Samuel Edozie go to Strasbourg and get consistent game time, and let's see. Because when I look at Samuel Edozie, I think he is a better player than Garnacho. You may think I'm crazy, but that's the truth. So you let Samuel Edozie go out on loan, be signed by Strasbourg. You have a relationship there that if you really want Samuel Edozie come next season, that's the upper season, 2026, 2027, you're going to get him. So you keep Bino Gittins, you also keep Tyreek George, and if Nico Jackson leaves, then that's an issue. But if he doesn't leave, that's fine. He can be another left wing option, and you go into the season with that. And then come next season, you can get you Samuel Edozie in the building, because I'm telling you, the kid is special. The kid is super special. That's the way I say it. That's why I say, please, if you have to touch on opinions, let me know. And the chat, drop your comments there. Let me see what you think about this. Okay, no. Just opinions on it. So, what do you think about what I've just said? So, instead of going out there splurging cash on Garnacho, I don't think, for one, is he better than Gittins? I don't think so. He's going to be second choice. Oh, well, let's see. So, that are my thoughts and opinions with respect to the left wing option and then Samuel Edozie, because I think right now the way things are, there are certain players in Strasbourg that are beginning to be of interest to me. Like when I look at Emmanuel Emega, I know he's still raw, but 6'5", he's got speed, he's an actual number 9. I think that's someone you should look at as well. But the thing is, right now, maybe that becomes an issue for Liam Delap, because if you're signing Emega, that becomes an issue for Liam Delap. But anyways, that's for next season. So let's see how it grows there. Let's see how Samuel Edozie as well, does at Strasbourg. I think he probably goes in there and becomes their outright starting left winger. So he reminds me of a Cole Palmer in a way, but a Cole Palmer with more pace that can actually be an outright winger. So let's see how that all shakes out. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Please, at least let's see if we can hit 100 subscribers by the end of this video. That would be awesome. That would be amazing. Let's continue to grow. Let's continue to grow the channel. So let's go back right off the top. We talked about players that will be leaving Chelsea, or at least looking like leaving Chelsea. We talked about Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall bid coming in from Everton. Talked about Lesley Ugochukwu probably heading to Burnley. Let's see how that all shakes down. I, for one, wouldn't have wanted him to leave, but I get why he's got to leave from the player side and the club side. I get it. The midfield right now is stacked, overcrowded, so you've got to let some bodies go. And for FFP, PSR reasons, you have to let people go. So I think Nkunku as well is someone that is likely to leave. I think he should have left in January anyways. But fair play to him. He stayed around, Conference League title in his pocket, Club World Cup title in his pocket. You can say that's what I achieved when I came to Chelsea. So Bayern Munich could be interested. RB Leipzig as well could be interested. So generally, from a fan of keeping my Chelsea hat aside, from side of a football fan, I think it's best for him to just leave, go to RB Leipzig and shine again, show what you're all about again. And the Xavi Simons thing, I think there was a comment on Instagram that made the comment. I don't know if that comment is real. When Gerald Hartel was unveiled, I don't know if it's real. But with respect to Xavi Simons, I think that deal should get done quickly. I've been saying this for a while. I don't want to be proven right. Once either his deal is done or the deal for Sesko is done to Manchester United or Newcastle United, then the deal for Xavi Simons or Sesko will become very, very complicated. That's how I see it. Because now I think Leipzig feel like they have to sell one of their top assets in Xavi Simons and Sesko. They have to sell one of them. So that's very crucial for them. So when they eventually sell one, that then immediately gives them that assurance that we're taking care of our books. We don't really have to sell the other player except we receive a gigantic offer. Except we receive a huge offer. Then speaking about outgoing still, and I don't want to write on that, but speaking on outgoing still, we have to talk about Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall was signed, a lot of promise, coming into the club. Under Pochettino, I think he looked decent. Remember the goal he scored against West Ham, glided past 2-3 players in the box, smashed it, far post. But injuries just beset him so badly. And for whatever reason, Enzo Maresca didn't quite, believe in him that much. So he's had to go. So he's not really keen on having him in the team. I know in any interview right now, you say he's a good player, we want him in the team. No, coaches can say whatever they want to say, but it's actually how you treat the player. Do you give the player game time? You can say, I like this player, but if you don't give him game time, what are we talking about? But anyways, he's gone. Last season went on loan to Borussia Dortmund, and they love him there. They like what he's done for the club there, and his performance there, and they want him. So Chelsea want a permanent transfer. They want to sell him, get some money in, while I think Dortmund are still, considering the move and trying to see if they can get a loan move with an option or obligation to buy. For me, Dortmund, don't be cheapskates. If you want to sign Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, if you rate him that much, go ahead and sign him. Go ahead, pay the money and sign him. And I'm sure maybe Chelsea may be looking for something like £40 million, maybe. And hopefully that doesn't put Dortmund off. We're hearing that RB Leipzig are also interested in Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, but I think while I see that he can actually play in that central role, especially if Xavi Simons is to leave, I think Dortmund, for some reason, I feel Dortmund will be a better move for him. No, what's funny with all this transfer news and things? Before it used to be, I want a player, you want a player, I have. It will just be a swap, maybe some money going either way. But now with this whole PSR, FFP thing, everyone wants to say we had a sale of this player, we had a sale of this separate player, so it's now in a separate deal. So even if it will work that way, maybe Kanye returns from loan to Chelsea, and then Chelsea goes on to sell him to Leipzig, and then go on to buy Simons from Leipzig. But another thing to consider is where the player wants to be. He feels like he wants to be in Dortmund, because when you've been at Chelsea, you really have got game time. You've had injuries, and then a new coach comes in, didn't quite give you the game time you feel you deserve. You've gone out on loan and you've impressed and on loan, and the coach there rates you. then you would want to go there because players are humans. You like to go where people love you, like to go where people, like and rate you. So I think he will be going out to Dortmund. And I think that'll be a good move for him if Chelsea and Dortmund can figure out, a transfer. For me, he's another player again that I would say Chelsea needs to make sure that, we've got a buyback option. Now, buyback option, not necessarily that you want to buy a player, you want to buy him back and, have him in the team. Now, if he goes to Dortmund and hits 20 goals with 15 assists, oh, wow, you can sign him back anytime. But the buyback option for me is you buy him and then you sell him off to another club for profit, because we have to deal with that. For me, I'm not really up for this for profit stuff, because I feel like when fans of clubs begin to sound like accountants, begin to sound like bookkeepers, then something is off with the club. So overall, if he does well, I want that buyback clause to be there. So if he does well at Dortmund, you can bring him to the club, see if he fits in. If it doesn't fit in, you can sell him off, then you make some, profit. So if you just join the stream, let me know what you think about, Dewsbury-Hall leaving, Lesley Ugochukwu plus possibly leaving, Tyreek George as well, could be leaving. If things don't work out right, especially if Garnacho is signed. What do you think about that? And what do you think about Maresca's tactics and the squad so far? Do you think the squad is indeed deep enough, going into the season, given the fact that you have to compete with the likes of, Liverpool, who got the business they've done already? They've got Ekitike, they've got Salah already. They're looking to add Isak to the mix. So you add Isak to Ekitike, to Salah, Van Dijk is already there, Florian Wirtz is there as well. That's a recipe for torture for a lot of teams in the Premier League. So do you think Chelsea's team can really stack up, against Liverpool? For me, I think in a way it can. If Enzo Maresca just allows himself to embrace his full tactical genius and flexibility, use your squad properly, I think you can still affect Liverpool in areas, because Frimpong, people say Frimpong is a winger. He's not. He's not a winger. I don't know. This is not a Liverpool show. This is not a Liverpool TV. And this up Chelsea TV. This is Chelsea TV for Chelsea fans. Chelsea fans, if you're here, you're loving the channel, subscribe to the channel. Blue is the color. Keep the blue flag flying high. So you want to play with Frimpong. Frimpong is not a winger. People get that straight. He's a very attack-minded fullback. Very, very attack-minded fullback that has more of an attacking mindset than a defensive mindset. But he's not a winger. So people say when Salah goes on AFCON, Frimpong is going to be his replacement. I'm like, how dumb can people be? But anyway, that's beside the point. What I'm saying is, with how Frimpong attacks, that would create an opportunity to hit Liverpool on the break. That's an opening right there. That's an opening right there. You have your Gittins, pace and power straight into that spot, straight there. Kekes will overlap, pace. That's straight into that spot with your Estevao Willian or your Pedro Neto straight in there. So these are the kind of things I want to see Maresca do with his tactics. Look at teams, pick them apart. How can we hawk these teams? Because overall, Liverpool, with the business they've done, the fact that they won the title last season, how everyone has them as this gigantic Premier League monster that no one can attack, no one that's so impervious. But I don't think they're impervious anyways. Because right now, Van Dijk, you can get at Van Dijk. His legs are not what they used to be. He's never really been electric. He's been quick for a centre back, but he can be got at, especially when you have a João Pedro taking him into places he doesn't want to go into. And then, of course, you can use the hammer boy, which is Liam Delap. Just make life horrible and miserable for Van Dijk, especially if the referees officiate the game like Liverpool is a Premier League club and not UNICEF or WHO or some charity where you have to do them so many favors. For me, I think Delap can make Van Dijk look really silly, in my opinion. And then with João Pedro as well, the two ways João Pedro can also have this impact where he draws, Van Dijk out of position. So I think whilst when you look at the numbers of what Liverpool have done, £160 million for Wirtz, wow, you see possibly 120, that could be 150 for Isak. You see Frimpong, exciting player. Look at what he did at what's it called? Bayer Leverkusen. I think, wow, this player, how can we even cope with them? But I think the way Chelsea's team is, you have the necessary tools to deal with Liverpool. So in fact, if I'm honest, Liverpool don't really scare me, if I'm completely honest. Looking at what the business Chelsea have done, I don't think Liverpool, they scare me that much. I think where Chelsea would have a problem, I think your Man Cities, your Liverpools, your Arsenals, your Bournemouths, all those teams that really want to attack. I don't think Chelsea should really be too scared of them. But when you come to those teams that just want to sit back and give you the ball, i.e., your Brentford and the likes, that's where Chelsea could have issues. That's where Chelsea could have issues. And speaking of Brentford, that probably would lose Wissa. So overall, I think Chelsea's squad would stack up. Maybe not in numbers in terms of who they've signed, but in terms of having tools that Enzo Maresca can use going this season, I think it will work. And then also, I want to ask this question as well. What would you call success? Like, I'll be asking this question each time I do a video on here, which is every day. So maybe I'll ask this question every day. So what would you call success for Chelsea this season? What would you say is success? What would you term as success? For me, finishing third and having a winning record against the team that's fourth below, from 4th to 20, have a winning record. And then you have a cup, have an FA Cup win, win the FA Cup, and then as well go as far as possible in the Champions League. Now, winning the Champions League would just be one of the Chelsea's things to ever happen, because you look at Chelsea and say, oh, they're not the favorites, PSG are the favorites, and then Chelsea just goes and destroys everyone and wins the Champions League. Now, that's something that I would like to see. It will be as Chelsea gets, So, but I just think may not be able to win the league title this season, but finishing third is quite possible. It's quite possible. Now, Arsenal have improved getting Gyökeres. Of course, Gyökeres, top striker. I wanted him at Chelsea at some point. Going to Arsenal, when talking about Arsenal players here. So they've solved an area of need. But I just look at them and say, the team is not still complete. It's not still complete. They signed Madueke, yeah, but the team is not still complete for me. Their midfield, when I look at Arsenal's midfield, comparing it to Chelsea's midfield, I look at it and say, even if I'm not thinking as a Chelsea fan, I just look at it, I don't really see how Arsenal's midfield is better than Chelsea's. Now, Declan Rice is good, but Caicedo is better. Partey is left, so the physicality, the robustness, that's left their midfield. He's going to Villarreal. So then look at who else is the option. The option that you having, is it Timber that's going to play in that midfield? Is it Norgard? So I think Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo win the midfield battle. And then you have Palmer in 10. I think Palmer is better than Odegaard. I know Arsenal fans will disagree, but I think Palmer is just better than Norgard. And then as well, if you're getting the Xavi Simons in the building, I think you're getting an option, you're getting another offensive option, attacking midfield option, to help out Palmer play side by side or come off the bench for Palmer. So I think midfield area, Chelsea is right up there. And you look at even Liverpool's midfield, have a look. McAllister, Szoboszlai, really, really better than Caicedo. If let's say you bought a new club, let's say you bought Hasham FC, some club somewhere, and you wanted to buy midfielders, and you had either to sign Chelsea's midfield pairing in Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo, or Norgard and Declan Rice, who would you be going for? For me, I think it would be an easy choice, Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo. So even in the midfield, better. In the 10 role, I think Palmer is better than Odegaard. That's why I see it. So midfield area, Chelsea is better. And then the wing areas, for me, Bukayo Saka and Pedro Neto. If Bukayo Saka is better, it's just slightly. And then when you talk about Gittins and Madueke, the difference either way is slight. So I know people are ready to say Arsenal are the next ones. If Liverpool fall off, it will be Arsenal. We've been hearing this for a long time. And I don't really see Arsenal as that out and out, second favorite. Of course, they will be in and around there, but I even see Man City even more as a threat than Arsenal. Because let's not forget, it's Pep Guardiola. Let's not forget, look at their team. They're stacked already. We know that Bruno is left, but they're still stacked in areas. And they have that winning mentality, while Arsenal have coming second mentality. So for me, while I said finishing third will be a victory, will be a good season for Chelsea, finishing third, going very far in the Champions League, winning the FA Cup would be a good season for Chelsea. But if for whatever reason Liverpool fall off, Man City not so much in it, I think Chelsea then should win the title. I think over Arsenal. That's just why I think it. Just why I think, because I look at Arsenal, I'm not really moved that much. As for Manchester United, forget about them. They're way, 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 way down there. They're a big club for sure, but no, not with the business they've done. Not with the business they've done. Not with the way they want to play. They want to play counter-attacking football. Do you think their fans will love them playing counter-attacking football? And do they even have the tools? Because having, Bruno Fernandes in that midfield, it's just funny to me. I look at it and it makes me laugh. You want to play Bruno Fernandes as that box-to-box 8 in a 2-man central midfield. That's just jokes. That's absolute jokes to me. It's like someone somewhere, some mysterious hand is penning some of the funniest jokes you've ever heard, you've ever read. Having Bruno Fernandes playing those roles, nah, it's not going to work. Can you imagine Bruno Fernandes and Caicedo going toe to toe? There's only one winner in that one. So Manchester United are out of it. Which other club can be there or thereabouts? Newcastle United, Bruno Guimaraes, and Joel Linton, which is just a flat track bully in my opinion. He's one of the most improved players since he moved to midfield, but there are levels to things. So looking at the midfield, Bruno Guimaraes, yeah, is very good. Tonali coming in as well is very, very good for them as per everything about his match fixing stuff is all done with now. So that's the decent midfield, and they could, if they get their striking things sorted out, could they push for fifth? I think they're still lacking in some areas. Creativity through their midfield. For me, they're still lacking in some areas. Newcastle United. So for me, I think Chelsea should be in a strong point to finish in that third spot. So that means either Arsenal or Man City would finish fourth. So, well, either ways, Maresca, don't let me down. And so let me just run through all we've talked of on this show so far, and then let them know your opinions are. So we talked about Dewsbury-Hall possibly leaving. What do you think about that? We also talked about, Lesley Ugochukwu could be heading to Burnley. Negotiation discussions currently going on between clubs, according to Fabrizio Romano and David Ornstein. And then as well, we've talked about Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall possibly going to Dortmund, and while RB Leipzig still remain interested in the player. So would you want to keep him or fair for him to go? I think he's fine. He should go. And then Tyler Judge could be leaving, interested in leaving because he doesn't think he's going to get that game time at the club. What's his opinions on that one? We also talked about, the squad. For me, I reeled out who I would like to see in the squad. For me, I said Robert Sanchez has to start right now because he's the best goalkeeper there. Chelsea didn't get Mike Mignon. Ended up with We ended up with the same situation. So Robert Sanchez and Philip Jorgensen. I don't think Philip Jorgensen is any sort of threat, not even a real competition for Robert Sanchez. So I've gone with Robert Sanchez to be the starting goalkeeper. I've gone for Reece James to be the starting right back. I've gone for Cucurella to be the starting left back. Dojuro Hato would be a good backup for him. and I've got what I want to see in centre-back pairing. I don't think Maresca would go with it completely, but for me, Colwill and Tosin should be the starting pairing at centre-back, except some huge business is done at centre-back. But that's where I will start with. That's what I'll go with. And then, of course, central midfield, I've gone with Enzo Fernandez starting alongside Moises Caicedo, Andre Santos, and of course, Dario Esugo are the other two options to come off the bench, whilst probably Lesley Ugochukwu, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall obviously getting sold. Started at the right wing. To give my option, I say Pedro Neto probably will start there, will be the starting right winger, with Christopher William gradually taking the spot and finishing the season as the starting right winger. And on the left wing, Gittins for me will start. I've said I don't see the point of Garnacho, but there you have it. And then for me, I think João Pedro will start in the 9, whilst you have what's his face right now, Cole Palmer played the number 10 role behind the striker, whichever is the striker, whether Liam Delap or João Pedro or even Nicolas Jackson, who knows. So that's what I've gone with. Let me know your own opinions with respect to that. And then as well, I talked about tactical flexibility, and I also talked about what I would see as success for this team. So I've said it, success will be finishing third and having a winning record against every team from 4th downwards. So that's my thoughts and opinions so far on the Chelsea squad. We'll come back with more news, more reactions. And also, I've also said this as well, going in with the season coming close, we'll be having pre-game prediction and chat, and post-match reactions. If you want to be part of that, let me know. Drop a comment in the comment section and let me know. And I could add you to a WhatsApp group where we could have discussions and also plan for you to come on the show. And then I could drop the links there or click it and join. So, but at this point, however, I've come to the end of this video. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for your support. If you're new, please subscribe to the channel. There are some other videos that will interest you on the channel. Do endeavor to watch if you want to. At this point, I've come to the end, and I'll see you on another video. Do have a splendid rest of your day. Stay well, stay blessed. Bye-bye.